From the Lincoln Journal-Star, this is the Life in the Red podcast with Luke Mullen and Amy Just.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lincoln Journal-Star's Life in the Red podcast. Luke Mullen and Amy Just here with you for another episode, breaking down another eventful week around Husker athletics and kind of that time of the year. We don't have spring volleyball, but there's a lot of overlap right now. Spring football starting up early.
Beach volleyball has already started. They're technically around.
I know. So we got track and field, wrestling going on right now. Of course, Husker hoops, baseball, and softball all in action. So a lot going on around Husker athletics and Husker track and field. They are off to the Big Ten Indoor Championships this week in Indianapolis, looking to see if any Husker athletes can seek those national qualifying marks. So we'll see what happens there. And Husker wrestling just finished up their regular season as well, getting ready for the Big Tens. But Husker football, first week of spring camp. And curious to get your thoughts. You know, it's obviously earlier than we're usually used to spring camp starting up around here, but it seems to be kind of quiet, like not a lot of excitement around Husker football. Curious from just being around the team, some of the coaches, just what's the temperature and vibe around this team right now?
Yeah, I think that they're still learning about each other, right? Like, especially on the defensive side of the ball and on special teams. Like, there's a lot of new coaches. They're still learning, people. Special teams is a little different, but like they're still learning people, still figuring out like scheme. There's going to be a lot of changes, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that they're still figuring things out. Again, it's early. All of the new faces are a part of why they wanted to start earlier. And so I know all of them are really excited to get to work. I know the fan base is probably not ready for spring football yet because, like you said, there's so much going on right now. Spring football from a fan perspective isn't exactly the biggest priority, but they're working, that's for sure.
Yeah, the behind-the-scenes work, obviously very important. And some of those new assistants, they've been getting the chance to meet with the media this week. And two of those coaches on defense, Corey Brown on the defensive line and Roy Manning, the edges coach, obviously they have a big challenge to shape this unit. What did you hear from them just in the initial impressions of what they want to see from that group?
Yeah, they are, again, right now they're looking to know people, especially like the edges. Like they want, more, just more intensity right now. But yeah, I'm diving into that press conference a little bit more today. I missed quite a bit of it because I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. The life of a journalist. I don't want to get dumped by my doctor. I've already rescheduled it 4 times, so I went to that instead. But I think that in listening back to a little bit of that, they're excited. But there's a long way to go in figuring out who goes where and what is best and just getting used to playing with each other because there's a lot of new players too. It's not just the new coaches.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really hard. I think that those positions, similar positions, but to figure out where the pieces fit, just in terms of what Nebraska did lose and all the transfers they added there. So, yeah, that work will be going on this spring. And Brett Maher, new special teams coach, he also met with the media. So more news to come out of Husker football moving forward as they continue their work on the practice field. But let's talk Husker hoops, and we're really approaching tournament time. Big Ten's coming up sooner for the women and than they are for the men, of course, a week before. But for the Nebraska women's team, we really, we said they needed to win at least one on the West Coast. You thought that they really needed to win both, and they were close. But
both would have solidified their, no longer being on the bubble. I still think they're on the bubble.
Yes, they certainly are. But they did get that one win. And of course, the 4-point loss to Oregon that they did have, the missed opportunity. They might look back on that one, but the win over Washington, of course, Britt Prince, she hit the clutch shot, the go-ahead 3-pointer, but you got to look at the defense in that one because that has been such a big issue for Nebraska. And the Huskers, they mostly had the turnover issues under control in that one. They forced more out of Washington than they turned the ball over. Huskies shot under 40%. So really such a huge win for Nebraska, not just, of course, the big shot at the end, but to put together really a solid game of basketball.
They needed it. They needed a jolt of confidence, especially before the Big Ten tournament. Yes, they have Rutgers on senior day, and everyone is important. Rutgers, not great this season. I think they only have one Big Ten win. But every game matters, and you can win or lose any game.
Definitely.
So got to go into that one with the right mindset before the Big Ten tournament starts.
Yeah, and just to feel good about where they are going into the conference tournament, especially as it relates to the NCAA tournament picture. They're still on the edge of the bubble, and there's a lot of different projections out there, but like 9 seed, 10 seed, 11 seed. I mean, there's really not much comfort in knowing you're one of those teams right there. So really, they need to win this game over Rutgers.
Yeah, they need to win this game. It is a must win. You lose this game, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it feels like it would be the type of loss that would keep a team out of the tournament, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. I think that what also doesn't help Nebraska is there's a really big bubble. Like there's a lot of teams on the outside looking in or just there. So Nebraska needs to do whatever possible to separate itself.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen in conference tournament week too. So one more regular season game. Again, that is Saturday night, Huskers at home here in Lincoln against Rutgers. As for the Husker men, they just wrapped up 2 home games, victories over Penn State and Maryland, and now up to 24-4 overall, 13-4 in Big Ten play. 3 regular season games left for the Husker men's team. And on the road, that was a big win over Penn State. Of course, Bryce Sanford, career high 33 points. A lot to like about that, but this Maryland game was kind of a different tone. I mean, Nebraska really struggled for a big portion of that game before that surge in the second half. Just those 2 games, very different games, but 2 wins for Nebraska. Was that really key to steady the ship after just, some tough games that resulted in a few losses?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest parts of these last 2 games were, again, I can't talk today. Bryce Sanford having that massive game against Penn State. And then inversely, you have Braden Frager playing so much better these last 2 games. Not that he was playing poorly before, right? He just was taking the extra step these last 2 games because he has his confidence back. He, is trusting his ankle. Remember, he got hurt against Washington, missed some time. When he got back, he was a little tentative, wasn't playing like he normally does with the confidence that he has, and you saw that pretty emphatically yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, I read your column about that too. It kind of felt like he was playing at such a high level that he's such a young player. Like you're bound to have some tough games, valleys and peaks. And certainly, of course, he was huge in that win over Maryland. Sam Hoiberg also all over the court as he usually is. I feel like I say this every time with Sam Hoiberg. Like his stat line is just like obnoxiously bizarre and wonderful. And it's like, yeah, that's Sam Hoiberg. Senior day coming up. I know they've got 2 games on the West Coast, but I imagine a pretty emotional moment for Sam and PBA. For senior day, he has just meant so much to this team, and looking super far into the future, I think he's going to be the hardest to replace. Yeah, I mean, when he's scoring the basketball too, he just takes that offense up to another level. outside of his shot creation, and of course, all that he brings on the defensive side of the ball. But as Nebraska, they get these 2 wins, and of course Maryland, they had to have a late second half surge to get that done. Well, really, it's a pair of tough games here out on the West Coast, and Nebraska, they're tied for second in the Big Ten standings right now. Two very different teams. USC is the first one up. That'll be Saturday afternoon. The Huskers play the Trojans, and they're 7-10 in Big Ten play, 4-game losing streak, but to some of the better teams in the conference. Kind of an up and down season for them, and very similar for UCLA, who's the second game for Nebraska out there. I mean, the Bruins are obviously a very talented team, but they played some great games, and they've had some duds this year.
Yeah, they are. Both of these games are pretty sneaky. The UCLA game is going to be interesting. I think you're going to learn a lot about who Nebraska is in that game specifically against that team, a team where there is a connection, right? Berke Buchtengel used to play there. So how will he play back at his old school? We'll see.
Yeah, and always a highlight to see what Mick Cronin has to say after a game. So
highlight is that the word you're using? Highlight
from an outside perspective, as somebody who's not face to face with him.
He's certainly a character in college basketball, and I don't mean that as a compliment.
Yes, so that it's a big test, frankly, for Nebraska to play those 2 games. We'll see what happens there, and of course they do have one more in Lincoln after that. That'll be against Iowa, but no need to guess where they are in the NCAA tournament projections, unlike the women, because the top 16 seeds, Nebraska is in it. The NCAA tournament committee, they included the Huskers as the number 11 overall team in the recent list. That is a 3 seed in the tournament.
I would expect things to move around a little bit up and down. The Big 12 is cannibalizing each other right now. Like an hour plus after that ranking came out, Kansas, my alma mater, lost in one of
Jayhawks,
in one of the most embarrassing fashions on their home floor in like program history to unranked, very bad Cincinnati, but then also turned around and beat Houston. So like, I don't know what to think of the Big 12. There's a lot of really good teams that have also had some duds. So, you look at BYU the other night, again, one of the top teams in the country, got smoked at home by UCF. So the bracket reveal on Selection Sunday is going to be wild, and the Big 12 is definitely a big contributor to that.
Yeah.
Which will affect Nebraska. Oh, long-winded way to say that.
Yeah, outside of just what they do on the court,
Yeah.
It's moving pieces, but it's like how far this team has come that they're solidly in the top 16, and you're going, are they going to be a 2 or are they going to be a 3?
It would take a lot, I think, for them to be a 2, just based off of things in Nebraska's control. Like, yes, there are some quad 1 opportunities, right, out there for them, but to move all the way up to a 2, I think they would need to win the Big Ten tournament for them to do that, and I don't know if that is in the cards.
Yeah, but certainly a lot left for the Huskers to play for. Again, they're next up here on the West Coast at USC on Saturday. But as for the spring sports, Husker baseball and softball, they've been on the road. Of course, they have. It's February weather around here, but
not today. It's not. They
nice.
can play today.
It is nice, yeah. And I was just at Husker softball. They were just getting outside a little bit after snow had to melt first, but they've been able to get outside a little bit. But Husker baseball, I mean, really, this was a marquee event that they were at down in Texas, and of course they knew that the competition was going to be tough. 2 close losses, they're really going to sting, but I think you still have to be decently surprised about how the weekend went. They had a pivotal win over Florida State. Let's start with the 2 losses just to go through those quickly, how it happened and why they're disappointed. Because Ty Horn, the Friday starter, we spoke about him after that first start. He had another excellent one, but Nebraska, he gave him 6 good innings, I believe it was just about. But Huskers, they had an early lead and couldn't hold on to it. The bats didn't generate much in the later parts of that 4-2 loss to number 15 Louisville. Course, a ranked opponent, but then 5-3 defeat to Kansas State the next day. That one also hurt because they played the best baseball early and faltered late. Really, the bullpen, of course, key in games like this. But as with anything with baseball, every day is a new day. And wow, 10-1 win over number 16 Florida State. I mean, that's got to catch the eye, both the pitching and hitting. And they piled on the runs early. Several different pitchers contributed to shut down that really productive Florida State lineup. And of course, Dylan Carey, that's a day to remember. 5 of the 10 RBIs in that one.
You'll take it, right?
Yeah, it's a good day at the ballpark.
Yeah, I would say so.
And I mean, that's a Florida State team that, of course, is hoping to be in contention for a College World Series berth. They're one of the top teams in their conference. So huge game for Nebraska's resume. I mean, that's one that could be very valuable at the end of the season, depending how Florida State goes in ACC play. And now 4-3, I think you do feel it's a pretty successful start to the season, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would say so. I mean, these early season tests are tough. It's built to help your RPI. It's built to, boost your resume. But with softball, as Rhonda Revelle told us last week, it's high risk, high reward. You can't win those games if you don't play them. And I mean, you can't beat Florida State if you don't play Florida State.
Yeah, good point. And it's a risk and a reward this weekend too. Because it's really one of the toughest tests for Nebraska. True road series at an SEC ballpark, never easy. The Huskers are going down to Alabama. They will play number 7 Auburn. The Tigers already 7-1 on the season. 3-game series on the road. I mean, this is going to be a serious test for Nebraska. You don't want to set a win total or anything, but I mean, certainly at least 1 win, and I think they would feel great about that.
I think in addition to wins, maybe figuring out your best closer. Mm-hmm. Would be a win in itself.
Yes, definitely. That's always a great chance. These early season games, test out the pitching staff, see how they respond. And so Husker baseball, big test for them on the road at Auburn this weekend. As for Husker softball, hey, the wins keep coming, and it was interesting to see how they would perform in this tournament because they had that huge win over Texas Tech and several more ranked opponents that they had. Well, swept through the field. The winning streak is 7 games in a row for Nebraska. And if you want to talk dominance, Huskers outscored their opponents 45-3 at the tournament. They won 3 of the 5 games via the mercy rule. Wow.
Whoo! That'll play.
Yeah, that will. And the ranked wins, of course, I think, stand out. Of course, the dominance was in all 5 games, but we're talking about 2 very promising SEC teams that are expected, to make deep postseason runs. And first one was the win over South Carolina. Nebraska, the early offense, they were all over the South Carolina pitching. That was a 9-1 run rule win. And Alexis Jensen and Jordy Fromm combined in the circle in that one. That partnership has been so impressive when in these big games, Nebraska, they've often started Jensen, gone to Fromm in the bullpen, and that's been working.
If it ain't broke, why? I mean, this is, kind of what they needed last year. They just needed another consistent person in the circle. And this has been fun to watch, really.
Yeah. And for Jordy in particular, she had a big game in the win over Texas A&M that followed, went 2 for 3 at the plate, had a homer, drove in 4 of the team's 8 runs, and also went 5 innings in the circle, 10 strikeouts in that 8-2 win over A&M. I think Jensen had 4 strikeouts in there. So 2/3 of the outs were strikeouts against a top Texas A&M team. I mean, both those pitchers, they're spinning it really well, great off speed. And you had a couple of the losses early in the season where, maybe missed a pitch or two. I mean, they were not missing any pitches this weekend. And that was incredibly impressive. And if you go beyond the top 2 pitchers, well, how about Hannah Camenzind?
No kidding.
Yeah.
My God, what a weekend for her.
Nebraska, I mean, they knew that they were going to need a lot of innings out of her because they wanted to keep Jordy fresh for those ranked games. I don't know that they knew that they were going to get 10 scoreless from Camenzind. She pitched a shortened 5-inning no-hitter against Hawaii, also went 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs in that one. The 42nd no-hitter in program history, and then came back the next day, threw 5 more scoreless in that win over Seattle. Man, that was a heck of a weekend for her.
Yeah, you'll take it, right? I mean, again, this team is full of welcome surprises, and that performance, I think, will pay dividends for her moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, she had to throw a lot of innings last year because Nebraska didn't maybe have the depth around her, and she was excellent at 3 innings, but the conditioning, it's hard when you're throwing that many, and she's a 2-way player. So the ability to have her take a lot of days off and come back fresh in the circle, that's been so valuable. And having 3 pitchers of that caliber, really important for Nebraska. By the way, of course, they were hitting the cover off. They were hitting the softball out of the park at a high rate as well. The extra base hits really piling up, as we said, 3 run rule wins, but they only allowed 3 runs over the entire weekend. Pitching and hitting were both impressive. Did either pitching or hitting impress you more?
I'm going to say, while both are incredibly impressive, I'm going to say the bats impressed me more because it wasn't just 1 or 2 people. It was up and down the lineup. And if you can do that all season long and into the postseason, you are going to be really, really hard to beat if everybody has that in their arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, just because they hadn't had, kind of the offensive explosion yet. And of course, some of that was the caliber of opponent that they've been playing. But to go out the way that they did this weekend, and really, I think the way that they jumped on top of South Carolina, and they had a couple of big innings against A&M, against really top pitchers. I mean, those are NCAA tournament, caliber games. And to win those like that was incredibly impressive. So I'll go with the hitting there as well. And what this big weekend means is that the Huskers, of course, still one of those top teams on the national stage, consensus top 10 team in every national poll, all the way up to 4th in the ESPN USA softball poll. And to be honest, I can understand it. They played the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's frankly interesting just comparing the polls and seeing how they rank teams. Like, for example, UCLA was ahead of Nebraska in one poll, and yeah, they've got 1 fewer loss, but nowhere near the caliber of wins that Nebraska has. So I'm just curious always to check those and see how the national rankings evaluate this team. But Nebraska 11-4, they are down in Oklahoma this weekend, and the highlight is 3 games against number 21 Oklahoma State. The Cowgirls 11-4 on the season. They have a few really impressive ranked wins. won over UCLA, by the way. And the name to watch here, you might know her around the state, Ruby Malin, former great at Omaha Skutt. She's pitched against Nebraska a couple times at Washington and Oklahoma State. Very familiar with Jordy Fromm. Really excited to see if there's one of those marquee pitching matchups this weekend.
Gosh, I hope so. It's good for the sport when that happens. And it's good for the state of Nebraska to see not just one homegrown talent, but potentially 3, 4 in the circle in this series.
Yes. And they'll also face up against Tulsa and South Dakota State on Thursday. A little bit of a scheduling oddity. The Huskers playing in both Tulsa and Stillwater this weekend. Joint tournament between Tulsa and Oklahoma State as a result for that. And by the way, they'll see the Jackrabbits here in Lincoln in a week. First home weekend coming up here, first weekend of March for Husker softball. So a lot more action to follow. We'll have all the updates for you around Husker athletics, as always, online at journalstar.com. But that'll do it for today's episode of the Life in the Red podcast. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's Life in the Red podcast. Our theme music is composed by Sasha Indy. The stories continue on journalstar.com.